this phrase was stretched out to be like probably 5 times longer than what has ever happened in any rehearsal before. And I totally went on a breath and I was like gasping for air, and it did not look pretty in front of a whole audience. And there was, I mean, it was being videotaped and everything. Everybody, it is Chelsea Melcher here with Red School of Music, and today I wanted to talk to you about how to stop caring about what other people think. So if you don't know me, my name is Chelsea. My husband and I, Paul, have a music school, the Red School of Music, together, and I'm also an active performer, and I've done various operas, musical theater, concert works, recordings, all of the like. And so I definitely know the struggle of what it means when you care about what other people think, especially too much, right? It can really get in the way. And so this video is for you if maybe you feel like there are certain things where you do things differently in front of other people, and or you're worried about taking a chance on stage or in your music or in your lessons because you're worried about what people are listening or what people are thinking in that moment. This is for you. And so this is something where you can be worried about judgment as well, and it's kind of this trap that you can get involved in, and I've really struggled with it, and I've worked through it as well, and I'm still working through it. I've done a lot of work into this. And so my journey as someone that cares about what other people think, I've always been a people pleaser type of personality. And so in that, I've often found myself in different situations, whether they were music related, like performing, or they were socially related, or they're business related, where I really take to heart what other people think, and to the point where it's probably to a fault. So in my singing, sometimes I've done auditions where I was so up in my head about who was listening and what they thought and what did they think about this, or what did they think about the rep that I'm singing, to the point where it really affected my audition, and I wasn't really able to enjoy it. I wasn't able to actually think about the music that I was singing. I was just caring about what they were thinking instead. And sometimes in social situations, I'm a very non-confrontational person, and so there have been some times where this fear will creep in, where there might be something where I disagree, or I feel like I want to say something, but then all of a sudden this is like a fear of disrupting the piece, or a fear of making someone unhappy with me, that all of a sudden there's something inside of me that can often shut down. And so also I see this with students a lot, where they'll be at our studios and there are other people that can hear outside the door. And you can tell that all of a sudden all of these thoughts are like, well, what are these people thinking? And so this happens a lot. And then even sometimes right now I'm feeding Molly, so I'm teaching a bit outside from my garage. And so I'll have students there'll be cars that are passing, and then they're looking like, oh my gosh, who's watching me as I sing, and I'll just be going for it and trying to encourage them to do the same thing. And so that's been some of my journey with caring about what other people think and doing all of that. And so I have 5 tips to help with stopping to care about what other people think. The first one is, where is this coming from? So most of the time when we're concerned about something, we can go back and think about our childhood and a situation that may have happened in our childhood. And not that everyone's childhood is traumatic per se, there is definitely traumatic childhoods, but there are some things that we'll experience in our childhood that are traumatic to us. Our brains are not cognitively developed in the same way that they are as adults. And so sometimes there's something, you think about children crying over spilt milk, or that saying, it's the same sort of thing, where it's like, oh no, it's no big problem, it's no big deal. But then to you as a child, it's a really big deal, and it can deeply affect you, and it can deeply affect the personality that you have for the rest of your life. And so in thinking about that, in a performer's aspect, maybe you had a situation where For me, I would wait for the applause, right? So as a young child and you're performing in things, you wait for, after the performance, you're like, oh, the applause, okay, that means I did a good job. Or there's people coming up to say good job to me, so that means I did a good job. And today there will be so many times where I'll do a performance, but no one that I know is there, and maybe I'm not seeing people afterwards, or I'm not able to see people afterwards. So there's nothing to judge of, like, oh my gosh, what did people think? I don't know. And so it's one of those things where I have to trust. But that's one of my personal experiences as a performer of where this came from. Another thing is this feeling of needing to please, needing to make sure everyone's happy. Where is that coming from for me? And I had some work done about this, and I figured out that it was probably from my childhood with my older sister growing up. So I have an amazing older sister. She's one of my best friends. She's incredible. And in growing up, if you have sisters, you know sisters can be amazing, and they can also, sometimes they can fight, they can be catty, they can be brutal in a way. And I never had a traumatic experience with my sister, but she's my older sister. I've always looked up to her and always wanted to please her, always wanted to make her happy. And so there's some connection for me in that, of making sure, oh my gosh, I have to make sure that my sister is happy. And so that's where my people pleasing comes from. And there were certain situations where I stayed silent in order to keep the peace, or things like that. And so in doing that, and in going back into your past, what it does is it helps you kind of put a label on it. So instead of this thing that you're struggling with and that you just keep struggling with, you're able to say, oh, okay, this is where this came from. And yes, it was traumatic to me at the time, but that doesn't mean that it still has to be traumatic to me. And it just kind of helps you realize, it helps you put a label and say, okay, this is what this thing is, and this is where it came from. And for some reason, it lessens its power on you when it does that. And so that has definitely helped me of figuring out, where is this coming from? Where is this need to please or make everyone happy, especially if I'm performing or on stage? Where is it coming from? And then second tip is consider the source. So this is a tricky one. Is this coming from a certain family member? Is this coming from a friend? Is this coming from a company? And so if you're a student and you are really worried about what other people are thinking, you're worried about taking risks, and you're singing, you can think about, well, what are you worried about? First off, you're worried about somebody, a certain person. Maybe this is a friend, and maybe this friend had said something bad to you in the past. So maybe that's for you. You're like, oh, that's my source. This is where this is coming from in the first place. Is I had a friend that said something negative to me. I was singing, and I was feeling totally great about singing in my past. And then all of a sudden, one of my friends said blah, 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 blah. And they didn't really intend it, but it really deeply hurt me, and it made me feel insecure. That could be something. Or it could be a family member. Sometimes people will be like, oh yeah, I was feeling really confident about singing until I sang, and then my sister came downstairs when I was singing. She was like, can you be quiet? You sound terrible, or something like that, where she doesn't mean it by any means, but it's something that comes back to you and it affects you, and you realize, okay, that's where that's coming from. So then in this step 2, consider the source, family. Where is this coming from? Then you can think about, what's the worst thing that can happen. So if this is a friend, if some comment is coming from a friend and you're worried about what does this friend think, then what's the worst thing that can happen? Well, your friend can make you feel really, really crappy. And if so, are they really a good friend? Or a family member. Family members can be quite brutal to each other, and there's always love there, right? But family members can sometimes, the people that you love the most can sometimes be the people that you hurt the most. And so in that, considering the source, is this coming from a sibling that doesn't really intend to, but they're being pretty rude to you, and just realizing, okay, that's not really truth, right? It's coming from somebody that intends well, but we just battle it out. And so that could be one of the things. Something for me when I've considered the source before in my performing or auditioning, sometimes there was an experience that I had where I was auditioning for a specific company, and I thought this was a company that really aligned with things that I was going for, priorities that I had. It seemed like a really fun company to work with. I knew some people that had worked with this company. And so I did my audition. And then after I did my audition, and I put my whole heart on the line, but after I did my audition, one of the gentlemen said something to me that he was criticizing a choice that I had made in that. And for me, that broke my heart, because I just gave it everything. And of course, when you're auditioning, you're putting your heart on the line, right? You're just standing in front of people and you're just like, here, take me or leave me, do what you want with me. This is what I'm doing. And so in that comment, it really made an impact on me, because I was thinking, oh my gosh, they didn't like it, they hated it. And then I had to consider the source, and I had to consider thinking about it. And then in thinking about it, I was like, wait a second. I mean, if this is what I have to offer, this is what I have to bring, and I'm somebody that I like to take risks and make certain choices on stage. And if they can't get behind that, then this is not a company that I want to work with. And so I had to talk myself through that one and really come to this conclusion of, I don't want to work with them, type of thing. And so in considering the source, you think about the worst thing that could happen, and you can also work through it. How would you handle it? In making a plan. So in that example that I just gave, that was me thinking, okay, this is a company that doesn't really align or see what I have to offer, or see me putting my heart on the line in all of these risks or choices that I'm making. And so what's the worst thing that can happen? They don't want to hire me. Is that really the worst thing that can happen with a company that doesn't truly see the value in what I'm bringing? That's really not that bad after all, right? So when you go through the worst case scenario, maybe it's not the worst case after all. And then it can lessen its power on you as it does me. So number 3 tip is giving the benefit of the doubt. So many times it's not about us, and we make it about us, but it's really not. There's so many things going on behind the scenes. Everybody has a different story. Everyone's coming at it from a different perspective, and all of a sudden, sometimes we can project things and make it about us when it's not really about us. So if you take a look at an example of me in this audition that I gave, maybe he was having a really bad day, and there was a comment that was said to him, and he was really upset about it, and then he was really hungry because it was past his lunchtime and he didn't get it, and so he was super grumpy. And then maybe a family member sent him a message, and that it was really stressing him out, and then it was just kind of the last straw, the straw that broke the camel's back type of thing. And then he just said something to me, and maybe he didn't even truly mean it. Maybe it was just a bad day. And so I don't know what the behind the scenes situation was, but I have to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, what is the best possible situation that this could have been? That's something that my dad actually taught me, was when you're interpreting something a certain way, any kind of conflict, any sort of situation where you're maybe people pleasing, if you're interpreting a certain way, you think, what is the best possible situation that this could have been? Maybe they didn't mean this. Maybe they were having a bad day. Maybe it was about this. Maybe it was about this. And then give them the benefit of the doubt. And in the least, it changes how you feel about it. There's been so many times with me personally, I have good intentions with my situations and interactions that I have, and I'm sure that there's been times where something has been interpreted and I didn't mean it that way. And I only wish that people would give me the benefit of the doubt as well. And so that is something, a gift that you can give to other people. And so if you're afraid about what they're thinking, or you're nervous about their judging you, think about, well, maybe it's not really about you after all. And you have to always remember that people want you to do well. People in the audience, people that are watching you, people that are listening to you, your teachers, your colleagues, your friends, the judges, everybody wants you to do well. They really do. And they're more comfortable watching you when you're more comfortable. And so you have to remember to give people the benefit of the doubt. And sometimes when people are judging or auditioning, they're thinking, is this going to be a good colleague? Do I want to work with this person in the future? Is this someone that's going to really help with the mission that we have in music and wanting to do that? And so you have to just remember, it's not always about you, and there could be something behind the scenes that you don't know, and you just have to say, okay, you know what, it could be this, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt, and it's going to make you feel so much better too. It's going to give you a lot more confidence on stage. And you also have to remember, there are people in the world that aren't all happiness and roses, and we know that, right? And so if there's someone that you're worried about and you're singing something for them, and you're worried about what they're thinking, and maybe this person is kind of a nasty person, and maybe they would say something mean, you know what that is coming from? That is stemming from oftentimes jealousy. And so oftentimes there's something that you have that you're offering that they wish that they had, or they feel bad that they don't have. And then that makes them, cutting you down and making fun of you in some way, or making some snide remark, and then you hear about it later. That's because they're actually jealous and they are inspired by you in some way, or they wish that there was something that they could pull off of what you have. So you just have to remember that too, because there can be really nasty people in the world too, but it does make a difference. It does make a difference. So always remember that. All right, so tip number 4, you can work on filling that void. So sometimes when we feel the need to please, there's like this void. And then if someone isn't happy with it, or if we're not sure, we don't have enough feedback, sometimes we need all of that feedback. If we're not getting it, you can feel this sense of emptiness. The people pleasers, they know this, they know what I'm talking about here. And so what you can do is you can fill it with things that are feel good, things, priorities that you have, and distractions. And so for me, my priorities are my family and music, and especially my children, and making my house look really nice, being in a really nice environment that makes me feel calm and makes me feel productive and makes me feel creative. Those are all really important things for me. So if I'm having a situation where I'm really worried about what somebody else is thinking, or it's kind of getting in my head, or maybe there was a negative experience that I had with the music school, maybe there was somebody that was really upset about something and I got some sort of a negative feedback in some way, and it's really weighing hard on me, and then my initial reaction usually is like, oh my gosh, well, I care so much, and I've been working so hard in this music school, and I wish that they saw that I had good intentions and everything like that. But sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. And so then I have to say, all right, I'm going to fill this void with something else. And so then I will go, and sometimes I'll make a list of things that give me joy. And so a lot of times right now, that's playing basketball with Mikey. He's like, play Space Jam. So we play Space Jam, and then we'll go shoot hoops together. Well, his basketball is like this tall, the hoop itself, and the balls are like this. But it's great. It's a great thing to do with a 2-year-old. And going on a walk. I love going on walks with Paul and Molly. Notice how I didn't say Michael there. Michael, for your future self that might be watching this, you are not a good walking companion, because you'll either want to run, you will pretend that you're Lightning McQueen, and you'll either want to run way, way far ahead and give me a heart attack and be like, oh my gosh, I have to keep up with you because, I don't know, like cars and mom and child and, streets and everything like that. Or you'll just say that you want to walk, but that you won't walk really, really fast, and then you'll drag behind, or you won't stop talking, like it's constant. So walk time, usually a lot of people, you see them going on walks and it's kind of this calming, peaceful time. Not here. It's we have to bring some kind of treat, we have to bring a water, there's so much going on. So if for your future self, Michael, hopefully we can work through this walking situation so it's a little bit more pleasant. But then also something that I really love is singing, of course, and just singing, especially the songs that I love to sing. So one of the things that I've worked through as a people pleaser is sometimes I would sing things for other people, or the thing that other people wanted me to sing, but then I didn't really feel connections with them. And there are always reasons why to do that, yes. But something that I've really worked on, especially during this period, during this pandemic, and where a lot of things, my performances have been canceled, is I have to think, okay, well, I'm gonna sing songs that I wanna sing. Like just me, the songs that I pick out, not that somebody picks out for me. It's really, really exciting in that way. And so those are all things that help me. And then in the last tip that I have, tip number 5, is let it shape you. So there's a lot of situations that can happen in our life and they're not fun and they're uncomfortable and they can really hurt us and they can really break us down. But you know what? You are not one of those people, because you take those things and you let them shape you. We need to create a thick outer shell for ourselves, and we're always learning, we're always growing. And so then anytime that we get feedback, as much as it might hurt sometimes, we can really take that and then use that to grow. We can become smarter with that. We can become stronger with that. We can use all of these things to help us. And so one of the things that has helped me become stronger is, especially performing, having really embarrassing situations. Like everything that you can probably think of that people are worried about when they're performing, it has happened. Like cracking. That's one of the things that a lot of my students are worried about, is cracking in front of people. Happened a lot. So many times. Who has cracked? Who has cracked? Tell me right now in the comments, okay? Because I know I'm not alone here. And then also forgetting an entrance, forgetting words of something. So there was this one time where I was doing this competition, and for whatever reason, I completely blanked on the words, and then I just had to sing on syllables like oh or something until I figured out. But it was about a verse and a half of that. So I don't know, maybe 60 seconds of that happened. So has that happened to you? Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever forgotten the words? Tell me in the comments. Or another thing is that I literally have fallen flat on my face in front of a big group of people. Yes. And not only once, but I have done it 2 times on the stage. All right. So y'all that are worried about that, I have experienced that. And I'll tell you what, yes, it's embarrassing. It's hurtful to one's ego, but you live through it. You learn to laugh at yourself, and then you say, what was I so worried about? I mean, you have these experiences that can be really embarrassing and really, say, traumatic, but then you just use them. You use them to make you stronger and to be like, oh wow, well, you know, I'm still alive. I'm okay. So I'm all that much better to have experienced that. There was this one time where I completely ran out of breath. I was doing this really long phrase and it's gone. I mean, I know in performances you have to be ready for whatever, and especially with this particular conductor that I was working with at the time, he would change things all the time. So I was just ready for whatever. But there was the night of the performance, there was a specific phrase that was particularly long, and I always snuck a breath in the middle of it. But this performance, this phrase was stretched out to be like probably 5 times longer than what has ever happened in any rehearsal before. And I totally went out of breath and I was like gasping for air, and it did not look pretty in front of a whole audience. And it was being videotaped and everything. So all of these things that have happened to me and have happened for me, I try to utilize those to make me a stronger person, to make me a stronger performer, and just to feel like you have a thick outer skull, right? And so all of these things can help you. So please let me know in the comments what bad experiences you might have had performing, or some things that you are working through yourself. And then please also let me know what helps you not care about what other people think, what helps you feel like you just can go out there and do whatever in front of an audience, and it doesn't really matter. And so thank you so much for spending this time with me today. It's been wonderful, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Okay,